New York Giants fans, I know that a lot of you are preoccupied right now because the New York Knicks are making a historic run, and thanks to a great win in Game 3, which the Knicks should now be up 2-1, but it's only down by one game. I digress. But thanks to a great Game 3, now you're back in this series. It got me to thinking, right? Like, hey, there's not been a lot of New York Giants talk over the past week or so because everybody's infatuated with what the Knicks are doing. Shout out to the Yankees, by the way, as well. And I guess to the New York Mets for anybody that wants to be on that side. I wanted to talk about an analogy that I have that has to do with the Knicks, and I hope that you'll follow me because what Brunson is doing for the Knicks, I think a lot of people have to think about the Giants and how those types of stories correlate. I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of A Giant Issue. I am Coach Gene Clemons, New York Giants on SI. That is where you get all of your New York Giants news and information. Make sure you go over there, check out everything that's going on. Go and check out our most indispensable player series that we have going on. Go check out the series that I've been doing on ranking the various elements of the teams on the schedule from this year. I've talked about the wide receiving cores. That's the latest one. But I've also ranked the quarterbacks. I've ranked the defenses. I've ranked the running backs. So go ahead and check those out. I think it's a really good series that I've done. Check out the most indispensable player. That's what we do every single year. And right now, go and check out our 90-man roster series. Right, the first two just dropped today on Memorial Day. Paulson Adebo and Alexander. There'll be two released every single day throughout the end of May through June, possibly into July, until we get through all 90 men on the roster. We do it every year. It's always a great opportunity for you to read about the players that are on the team. And if you ever need references on anybody that's on the team, you've got them right there. So make sure you check that out as we continue to go on. Lots and lots of things going on at the New York Giants on SI. Go over there and check that out. Also, make sure that you like, subscribe, all of the videos, not just this one. Go back and just start liking all of the other ones as well. Subscribe to the channel. Help us out. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers before we get to week 1 of the football season. So I was watching the game, and just so that any of you know, I am an absolute huge basketball person. I tell everyone all the time I'm a hooper. When I was growing up, I played basketball. I played football recreationally, right? I didn't play youth league football because most of the places that I played, it was too expensive to play, and they wanted you to fit into weight classes. And I wasn't a big dude, but I was tall. And so just being tall meant you weighed more than other people did, even though I was criminally skinny. And they wanted me to play positions that I never was going to play. So I never played football or regulation football until I got to junior high school, my 9th grade year. That's when I played regulation football for the first time. Yes, I just said junior high school, my 9th grade year. For some of you that don't know, in some places, junior high, 7th, 8th, and 9th, or 8th and 9th. And high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th. And that's where it was when I was going to school. It actually changed where I was while I was in school. We welcomed in a 9th grader, my senior year. And so that was the first time that my high school, Gaither High School in Tampa, Florida, shout out to Gaither, had 9th grade. My senior year. But in junior high school, ninth grade was the first time I ever played regulation football. So anybody that ever says that your child or someone has to play regulation football, tackle football from a really, really early age, they're lying. What you need to do is teach people skills, but you don't have to put that type of wear and tear on your body early. Anyway, I digress. Also, before I keep going, I want to give a tremendous shout out and love to all of those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice and sacrificed their life in service. And I'm not just talking about military service, although I know that a lot of times that's what we get hung up on is people who have given their life in military service. And I don't say hung up to try to be facetious. I say it to say that there are other people who have been in service and they deserve to be remembered on this day as well. Police officers, firefighters, doctors, teachers who've given their entire life, just people who have risked and given their entire life over to a cause or something that is positive, that is meant to protect, meant to uplift, meant to educate, all of that. That day is for them, and I want to send nothing but prayers up to all of those people and to the families of those people. But yeah, I was a hooper growing up. I was a basketball player, and football was like the mistress. But at 6'4", and 200 pounds or 195 pounds, 200 pounds coming out of high school, there wasn't a lot of offers for a 6'4", 200-pound small forward, power forward like playing guy in high school, right? I was before my time. I always tell people that my game is a lot more like LeBron James. I'm just not 6'9" or 6'10". Because if I was, I would have played a similar game. I'm not saying I would have been as good because that's crazy, but I played a similar game. I was smart. I was athletic. I had point guard instincts. But I was strong enough to play against bigs, and because my school didn't have a lot of tall basketball players, I ended up playing in the paint a lot of times, or at least defending. And so that was my life. But football, as you know, 6'4", 200 pounds, you look darn good. And so that is where the trajectory took me. And I really love and enjoy football, but I love me some basketball, and I love Jaylen Brunson. And I've loved Jaylen Brunson ever since he was at Villanova, when people were underestimating him at Villanova, and he cooked everyone just like he did in high school. And I remember how when he came to Villanova and when he got off, and it was like, yeah, he wasn't rated that high and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, if he cooked everyone on the national scene in high school, then once everything evens out and they're at the similar age levels in college, isn't he just going to cook those same people as long as he stays motivated? That only made sense to me, right? Because that's how I believe. And so when it was time for him to go to the league and people underestimated him, and I watched him take all of these other players off potential over Jaylen Brunson, I immediately just thought to myself the same thing. Well, at some point, the buoys are going to level, and Jaylen Brunson is still going to be Jaylen Brunson if he's motivated, right? And guess what? Jaylen Brunson was motivated. And I actually think it helped that he went to a team where there was a guy who was supposed to be an all-world, life-changing point guard in front of him. And every time that guy got hurt, Jaylen Brunson came in and performed like the world-changing point guard that everybody thought the other guy was. And so then he decided to go over to the Knicks. And here is where things get interesting, right? Because he went to the Knicks. And he this past offseason, he signed a 4-year, $156.5 million contract. And he did so knowing that if he had just waited another year, this year, right, this offseason, he was going to be eligible for a larger max deal. That max deal would have paid him an extra $113 million. So instead of signing the $156 million 4-year deal, he would have signed a 4-year, $269.5 million deal. Now, I'm sure that some of you guys are out there right now going, well, yeah, what can you do with 50 with 55 million that you can't do with 36 million, right? I know some of you guys are saying that. The problem with that notion is that he's in New York and the taxes in New York are crazy, right? And this is generational wealth. So this is not just money for him. This is money for his generations to come. And millionaires and billionaires, the wealthy, didn't get wealthy by giving money back. But you know who did? You know who do? The unselfish. Those who understand that they can't do it alone. They have to give money back, right? They have to give money back. I think about those companies where they allow the employees to invest in the company early, right? They even pay the employee, hey, we can't pay you what you're really worth, so we're going to give you stock in the company. So the harder you work, the rising tide will raise all ships. And then when those companies cash out, when they sell, when they go public, when they do whatever, everybody becomes millionaires and billionaires, right? That's your Steve Ballmer's. Like, how many people that were underneath that company became millionaires and billionaires whenever they decided that it was time to cash out, right? So I think about Jaylen Brunson giving back $113 million or leaving $113 million on the table. And he said he did it because he wanted this team to have the flexibility to get better. Have the flexibility to put better pieces around him than they had before. So what did they do? They went out and got Cat. They went out and got another one of his Villanova brothers. They lost some people, but they were able to bring in more people. And for what we might think about Cat and all of those guys, they're here. It worked, right? The unselfishness of the star, being humble enough to know that he can't do it all on his own, right? Allowed for the team to get better. And because the team got better, or because the team was able to put better pieces around him, they're in a position they haven't been in a very long time. I juxtapose that to you to say this. Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence signed deals that were less than what they would have received if they had waited and held the Giants up at gunpoint. Andrew Thomas, one of the best tackles in the game, even though he's been hurt, right? Even though he's had 2 years in a row where he's been injured for a significant amount of games. He's only 26 years old, which means that if he would have hit the open market right now, right? Because this offseason, he would have gone through his 5-year contract. If they would have franchise tagged him, they would have been paying him exorbitant amounts of money, right? Top 5 in the league money. That's more than what he's making. He's not making top 5 in the league money. Same thing would have happened to Dexter Lawrence, right? Because Dexter Lawrence is in the same position. Dexter Lawrence is in a position where if he had hit the open market, you see what these guys are making, right? You see what these guys are making in the open market. So if after the 2023 season, right, when he was a Pro Bowler and a back-to-back All-Pro second team and a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, I think he finished 9th that year. And that was off of the 4.5 sack season. If he has 4.5 sacks and 53 tackles, he ends up All-Pro on the second team, and he's able to then walk into free agency. He's going to get a massive bag. If they would have had to franchise him in 2023, they wouldn't have been able to franchise him in 2024. So he could have held them up. Hey, give me all the money. Andrew Thomas could have held him up. Give me all the money. This isn't a situation like Xavier McKinney, where he doesn't have leverage because so many people don't value the running backs. This isn't a Saquon situation where he doesn't have leverage because he's 25, 26 years old and people don't value running backs the way they should. These are at 2 premium positions that are highly valued in the NFL, and they decided to sign early. They decided to not exhaust the contract. Hey, let's get this done, right? Let's get this done. Let's get this money. Let's leave money on the table so that you guys can be able to put a team around us that's better. So the question becomes, is it going to pay off? The question becomes, is it going to pay off? Now, football's not like basketball, so maybe it didn't pay off in 2024. You know why? Because you can't do it all in one year. But think about what they did in 2024 or going into the 2024 season. They got a right tackle, they got a left guard, they got a right guard. They brought them all in, all of them started. The offensive line, when healthy, was much better than it was in 2023. Was low-key better than it was in 2022. I digress, though. This year, off-season, what do? They go out and get a cornerback. They go out and get a safety. They go out and bring in 3 defensive linemen. Why? To help. They draft an edge rusher. Why? To help. They draft an offensive lineman. Why? To help. So if it pays off in the end, don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted, right? Jaylen Brunson did what he did. Jaylen Brunson did what he did. And because of what he did, he left a lot of money on the table. He left a lot of money on the table. And there's going to come a time where Jaylen Brunson is going to want them to make it right. Right? He's 28 years old, which means that by the time he's up for another deal, right? Because this was his deal. This was his in my prime deal. The next time he's up for a deal, he'll be 31 years old. And who knows? He's a smaller dude. Who knows if he will still be at the level to be able to command the level of money that he might want to command. But you know what the Knicks should do? They should break him off. Why? Because you sacrificed early to make sure that we could put a team together to be successful. Right? You sacrificed early so that we could put a team together to be successful. Dexter Lawrence is going on his second year of the second year of this contract. Right? The second year of this contract. So if you think about it from the standpoint of how old he is, 27 years old, he's going to get back to the money again. He's going to get back to a place where you go. He's going to get back to a place where you go, man, it's time to pay him again. And he's not going to be old. He's going to be 29 years old. And he's going to be back at the negotiating table again. And that is not the time to say, what have you done for me lately? That is the time to say, thank you. Thank you. And we want you to be a Giant forever. Right? We need more of this in the league. We need more of this on the Giants. We need to get back to seeing more Giants retire as Giants and or spend so much time as a Giant that nobody even remembers the 1 or 2 years that you spend somewhere else. What we can't have is for Dexter Lawrence to spend the next couple of years here and then for a GM to get funny and go, hey, he's 29. Let's trade him away and get value for him and start all over again. No. We need more OC Humanoras. We need more. We need more Lawrence Taylors. More Banks. Right? We need more Michael Strahans. Like I said, we don't even remember that Justin Tuck played somewhere else. Why? Because he played long enough with the Giants that we don't care. But if you let Dexter Lawrence walk out the door in another 3 years, 2 years maybe, right? Another 2 years, if you let him walk out the door, or if you trade him out the door because you don't want to pay him, and he's played 8 years with the Giants, at 29, he's playing another 4 to 5 somewhere else at the minimum. And so now it becomes, who do you remember him as? You remember him as a Giant, or do you remember him as a, right? Leonard Williams had a chance to just be a Giant, but people didn't value what he was doing enough, and they wanted to flip him for other things. But Leonard Williams gave the Giants several years of great play and could have given the Giants several more. Andrew Thomas has been injured, but every time he's not injured, he's one of the best in the league. And again, they didn't have to give you the blessing, right? Andrew Thomas is 26 years old. He's on that Tyron Smith plan, which means he's got another 8 to 9 years looking at him in the face. Do you really want to see Andrew Thomas playing somewhere else? Wouldn't you just be sick if you had to look at Andrew Thomas playing somewhere else? Guess what? It could happen, right? Because in another 2 years, 3 years, when he's 29 years old, another 3 years when he's 29 years old, and he's at the peak of his career, 9 years into his career at the peak. How crazy is that, right? 8 to 9 years. And he's in the peak. You got to pay him. You got to back the Brinks truck up. You can't get cheap with them. He's already given you the cheap deal. He's already given you the deal to get the pieces in place. What you do with it, how you take advantage of these years that you have Dexter Lawrence, and Andrew Thomas on shorter money because you did not have to pay them top 5 money. That's going to decide how these things go for you in the future. Right? That's how it's going to decide how it goes as we try to figure out what this team is going to look like in the future, and whether or not you'll have guys who can go down as legends in the game. Chris Jones, the highest paid defensive tackle in the game, $31 million a year. Christian Wilkins, $27.5. Do you think that Dexter Lawrence is better than Christian Wilkins? I do. Milton Williams, $26 million a year from the Patriots. Do you think that Dexter Lawrence is better than Milton Williams? I do. Nnamdi Madubuike, do you think that Dexter Lawrence is better than Madubuike? Yes. Aleem McNeil from the Lions, Derek Brown from the Panthers, Quinnen Williams from the Jets, Jeffrey Simmons from the Titans, DeForest Buckner from the Colts, Daron Payne from the Commanders. They all make more money than Dexter Lawrence. They all make more money than Dexter Lawrence. Right? But I could argue only one, maybe two guys on that list is better than Dexter Lawrence, that brings a full package to the table like Dexter Lawrence. Pause. Right? I'll give you two for sure. Everybody else, I'm gonna have an argument about. I love Jeffrey Simmons with the Titans. I don't know if he's better than Dexter Lawrence. Now they play different things, right? Dexter Lawrence is a nose guard. Some of these guys are 3 techniques, so it makes it harder to gauge. But you get what I'm saying. This is a premier guy who has sacrificed getting the $28 million a year to take his 22, and it might not sound like a lot to you guys, but what does that extra $5 to $8 million a year help you do? Right? What does that extra $5 to $8 million a year help you do? That's what you have to ask yourself when you're talking about these contracts, right? Andrew Thomas is $23.5 million a year was low. His average a year is low. Trent Williams is 37 years old and makes $27 million a year. Christian Darrisaw, he's 26, just like Thomas. He's making $26 million a year. Laramie Tunsil's 31. He's making $25 million a year. Right? Those are the guys that are higher than Thomas. Thomas could have easily had maxed out. He's only 26 now. Which means that if he had waited, right, after the 2024 season, after the 2023 season, his 2024 season would have been the average of the top 5, which would have been more money than he's making or than he made in 2024, his fifth year. Which means that this year they would have to back the Brinks truck up for him and pay him Trent Williams money, or they would have to double down on a second deal, which would have paid him a point something escalator, and then he would have been making even more money. But again, they didn't hold him up. They allowed them to have deals that make it possible for them to maneuver and do their things. We should applaud that. And now it's, what are the Giants going to do with it? And ultimately, how are they going to take care of those two dudes who we don't see any signs of falling off? We just see injuries, but that happens. Remember, not for nothing, remember, people thought Trent Williams' career was over when he was with the Commanders. He had a full-on reinvention with the 49ers and is still going strong at 37. There are guys on this list making beaucoup money at 33 years old. Garrett Bowles, Jake Matthews, Taylor Decker, Ronnie Stanley's 31. Andrew Thomas is 26 years old, ladies and gentlemen. So when he and Dexter Lawrence come up for that next big contract, we can't go, oh man, look, they're getting in the 30s. I don't know, they're in the 30s. We gotta think about skewing younger. Nope. Cut the check. Don't take Brunson for granted. See what it's done for his team and recognize what it can do for yours. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time I have today. New York Giants on SI, that's where you get all of your Giants news and information. Make sure you go over there, check it out. Come over here, hit that subscribe button. Subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Post a video. Get them on board. It's a movement. We're trying to get to 5,000 before week 1. I always appreciate it. Until next time, I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a Giant issue.